This video is a not for children video, but if anybody under 13 years of age is planning on watching it, they must be logged into their Google account for age verification so they are not illegally targeted by Google with ads. So finally got some other things out of the way for Christmas, and it's back to working on the router table again, and this is where I left off. And you can see I was, I still had the drawers and everything else to finish up. So this is just kind of an overview. I'm going to bounce through things quickly because it started out as over 3 hours of video, and I just wanted to cut it down as short as I could. So this is just a a quick video of assembling the drawers. These are the larger drawers for the back, and basically everything is the same construction that I always use, where there's just little dados and tabs that lock into them. It makes basically a very strong drawer that is easy to make, and will stand up over time. So that little glue bot really does help in keeping items like this glue up really neat, and not making a big mess. The glue up in one of those little brushes does make a big difference. So as always, I'm assembling the drawer on my that little clamping board that I made, and squaring board, so it makes it easy to get everything perfectly square from the beginning. And this drawer is a little bit oversized, so I couldn't put the cam clamps on the side or the wedge clamps on the side there, but I was able to just use a couple of bar clamps and get it all locked down. Then the that plywood really had a lot of voids in it that I got from Lowe's here. So basically what I did is I went around the edge and I took and put glue in all the voids, and then I took and forced sawdust in there. And actually in the end that did work good for filling them up and getting it all ready for painting. Now all these drawers just got 3 coats of latex paint on them that I didn't actually show anymore doing because just a waste of time, I think. So what I did is I filled in these holes like this, and I went back and sanded them, and then I went around those entire plywood edges here with a brush coat of the Tight Bond glue, and then I went back and sanded everything so so the lines there wouldn't really show up in the paint once the glue sealed them all up. So it seemed to work good for me, and here they are. I got them. These are the back drawers here. I finished them up and got them all painted with 3 coats of latex paint. Those 12-inch slides I got from Amazon for cheap really did work good. They were, really sturdy and aligned good. So that's the backside drawers, beginning of, and then it's back to cutting the all the grooves and dados for the small drawers in the front. Using that ink from miter sled. It's a little bit big and bulky for doing stuff like this, so but it does get it done accurately. Someday I'm probably just going to build a small wood sled to for this kind of stuff. But anyhow, this is just cutting the grooves and dados in that all locked together like that, and then I just had to go back and put a dado in for the bottom and do some pre-clamping to see how they all look and get ready to start assembly. And I got 4 drawers there, and now it's back to the glue up of this. There you can see the first one's got the first coat of paint on it, and a couple more with the glue drying, and this one I'm just gonna do the same glue up. It's pretty much the same as the big drawers, all the same corners locked together the same and everything. And this is more sized right for the little assembly squaring up board that I've got there. You can see it'll fit right in there, and those 2 walnut strips are at exactly 90 degrees, so once everything's clamped down and locked in there, I put a little wax paper under to keep the glue from making a mess of it, and just use those wedge clamps, get everything pulled perfectly square, and a couple more clamps up on the top there really really helps out to squeeze the extra glue out. Then after an hour drying, I just take them back to that jet belt sander, and this thing has been just a amazing tool to have. And I just clean everything up, remove the glue and any unevenness. You just have to be careful you don't go down into the plywood, go through that first layer of the skin on it. And then in the mail, my router bit holders finally came. I bought these from Lee Valley, and the reason I went with these holders is because over the years I've always had holes drilled in wood and put my router bits in that, and they get a layer of rust where it contacts the wood for some reason. I always wind up having to clean off and stuff, so I decided to try some actual, holders that are made for bits that look like they're going to work good, and they should not cause any rust or anything from what I can see, because they won't absorb moisture. So I got a couple of those cheap shelving units, piece of shelving from Home Depot, just to use for my router bit mounting, and I just cut them up to size, and then I figured out the pattern I wanted to use on them, and I made up a template so I could just use this to make sure all four of them came out in perfect alignment. And all it is just a piece of MDF that I went through and carefully drilled the holes all in. And it makes it really easy to go back and repeat things. So the drill bit will flex a little bit to follow the hole if you're off a little bit. So it makes them come out perfect. So I just taped that on the board itself there, and then I just peeled the tape off once the holes were drilled. And I did find out that these shelving pieces actually no longer have a phenolic. That weight is no longer phenolic. It's some kind of a paper base, because you can actually rip the finish off of it with masking tape, which is pretty sad. So I got the holes drilled in there, and then just took a little countersink bit, went back and just opened them up so that when the flathead screws pull down, they'll actually pull the router bit holders tight down on the board, so they won't spin or anything or crack. So here's what the half-inch bit holders look like, and I just got some flathead Phillips screws to for the size I needed to mount them. And then there's one hole in the center of the bottom, and those are the clearance holes that I drilled for them. So you just kind of put them in place and tighten them down. And I did go with a pretty wide spacing on these, just so I could easily get my fingers on them and grab them and get the bits in and out. And these really are a nice little well-made holder for the bits. They've got like the half-inch ones have like 3 little fingers that the bits go in, and they firmly lock it in place, but yet they're really easy to pull the bit out of, so you don't have to yank on it like you do in some of the other type holders. And there you can see they just slide right in, lock, and then they won't fall out. I mean, you can shake them upside down, do what you want, and they actually do hold nice, and you can see they pull out real easy. So it is a great design, I feel. I mean, they were a little bit pricey, but I feel they're worth it to help save the bits over time. Now I decided to go with individual pull-out boards like these, just because it'll be easier to deal with, and to see things and be able to just pull them out from any level and set them on the bench top where you can get a good eye on things. So it does take a while to get them all screwed down, and they only come in packs of 6, so that's what they look like. And here's one I started throwing some bits in already. These are some of my half-inch bits there. And you can see you can turn it upside down, basically shake it, and the bits all stay in there really nice. Then I went back and I made some labels for them using that Cameo 3 with the print and cut and some waterproof vinyl label material. And that just does a great job. It prints them out first, and then you put it in the Cameo machine, and the blade goes back. It just cuts the label itself out and leaves the backing. And I sized them so they fit exactly over the base of the widest spot of that router bit holder there, and they just kind of lock down in place. So the self-adhesive backing on them holds them, and it's a good way. I feel it's a good way to label these bits, so I always put them back in the right place, and I can always find them. And I have to say that Cameo 3 cutter has really been a great tool for helping to label things and make some halfway decent looking labels for stuff like this, or basically anything. And there you can see they kind of drop right over, and they center on the router bit holder there, and I just drop them in place, and they stick right down. So I still have some more labels to finish up for the other ones, but and that's what's left when you're done, just the backing sheet. So there's the start of mounting them, and then I'm going back for the 1/4 inch size. Now the 1/4 inch size uses like a number 4 screw, and it has to be a Phillips head with a driver that is less than 1/4 inch diameter, so you don't mess up the inside of the bit holder there, because it's just made to clear 1/4 inch. So these do take a little bit smaller starter hole for the screws, and takes a little longer to get everything lined up and in there, but they're basically the exact same as the 1/2 inch, except for they only have 2 little fingers in there to grip the bit, and they're just a little bit lighter weight. So there they are. I've got my 4 boards all put together there, and now I'm going to go back to the cabinet itself, and I've made all the drawer fronts. They were just cut out of the same plywood. The edges were sealed, and then everything got 3 coats of latex paint on both sides. And here I am just putting drawer fronts on. And I used a 1/16 of an inch ruler there, thick ruler, to just space everything out evenly. And you can see I used some double-sided tape on the front of the drawer to set them in place so I can line everything up and drill it. So once I knew everything was perfectly aligned and ready to go, I just used the screws from the actual handles themselves to hold the drawer fronts in place. So I had pre-drilled the mounting holes in the front of the drawer there, and just transferred them back to the drawer now that it's in place, and put the handles on. And these are basically the same Amazon handles that I used on that dresser that I built this spring, because I had a lot left over. So you can see this is all really just basic, simple construction, and everything. Those slides, same slides on the front here, those 12-inch ones, and they all, they work really good. And then I went online and I found this orange no-slip Toolbox drawer liner. I found it on Amazon, but actually they wanted way too much money on Amazon for it. And I got a roll of it from Walmart.com. And just started cutting pieces to line all the drawers, and turned out the one roll was just enough to do everything, and just cut it with a little utility knife blade and a square. And it was time to make some final labels for the outside of the drawers and everything else. And here I am back up to the Cameo, and I'm cutting some actual Orcal vinyl for the labels. And this thing, just let it draw them up. You let this thing run, and then you peel away the stuff that it, where it cuts around, and they call it weeding, and that's what you have left. And then you just put them on a transfer film that goes on the front, and it's time to, go back and add them to the cabinet. Now I spent some time getting the all the wiring cleaned up in the back there, and there you can see I put some foam blocks around the power supply to control the airflow and to isolate vibration, and everything's all cleaned up and ready to seal away. And there's wires going out for the router lift there that I still have to work on. So this, basically the big fan in that power supply will control the airflow through here. And then on the input side of it, I bought some of these, I bought one of these little fan filters made for 80mm fan, and I drilled a hole in the back there. And then there's just one piece of plastic that you screw in place, and then the filter and the guard snap on, so you can always take that off and clean it or change it later. And then that whole piece goes over the back there, and you can see I just took and glued 2 pieces of 3/4 inch plywood together for the that top there. And then I actually took these and I went back and I painted epoxy around the outside to clean them all up good and everything, so you wouldn't see the grooves. And they're pretty much, that slides in with the covers, and everything lines up, and a couple holes for the air to come out of, and basically the cabinet is done. All those slides did work out good. Everything works, slides smoothly, no play in them or anything. So, I'm going to say, I had my doubts about buying the cheapest slides I could find, and actually they turned out working out pretty good. And now I have a place for anything that goes with my router. So there it is. Went back and I applied those nameplates, decals on there, and So now I know what's in each drawer there. And it makes it easy to find things and, easy to keep things organized. Because I used to have the router stuff spread through 5 drawers throughout the shop. And, this really does clean it all up. So, everything fits in there, all my dovetail, the high jigs and stuff. And if we go around to the front here, you can see that's, basically everything's all done now, except for a couple little covers on the side to cover the screws there. They'll be going on the last thing once everything else is done. And there's all my wiring and the scale for the Z-lift separate motors and the actual sensors and stuff there. So that's all ready to go when I build that. And, there you can see another couple covers for the side there. But, basically, this is the end of the cabinet. All done. All the labels are on it. Everything's wired up, working now. And, so now it's just a matter of getting back and actually working on the lift. So there's, there you can see I've got places for pretty much everything. That's where the tabletop inserts are going to go. And that's just the accessories for all the my Grizzly Saw router table, and it's just some T-Track hardware there. And then I just made a place to store the Milwaukee router down there when I'm not using it in the table there. And then on the other side, there's a door that actually all those router bit trays will be back here. I still haven't mounted them in there. I still have to make a couple little guides to slide in, determine the spacing and stuff. And there's one more little drawer on the bottom that pulls out. So I still have some labels to finish up on these trays and some more router bits to get in there and stuff, and the mounting of them and the handle on the front of them. But that's all going to be simple stuff. And I did pick up an air cylinder. I'm starting to work on my automated blast gates for my dust collection also. And there you see, once these are done, they'll just slide in there and they'll just pull out easily. And there'll be four shelves in there, and then there'll be room on the bottom drawer for box sets. So that's basically it. Now it's actually kind of hard to hear in this video, but there's absolutely no noise coming from that big fan in the power supply or anything anymore. It's all muffled really good by the that heavy plywood top and having the those small holes for the output and stuff. So the fence is all 100% done, ready to go. Everything's working really good. It's got the coarse, medium, and fine adjustments. The DRO works good and stuff. So, and everything's pretty much worked out and ready to go. It's just a matter of getting some time now to go out and finish up the router mounting plate. Now on Cyber Monday, MLCS had this really great sale, and it was a router bit set that came with one of these little clamps and the lubricating oil for the bits. And this is what it looked like. They shipped it out really quick. I was surprised I had it in like 3 days after I bought it, which they said, due to holiday ordering, it would be slow. But the set itself came packaged nice. It was put in a big box and all wrapped up with paper to protect it, and had another cardboard box here, and it's in a nice case, but I'm actually not going to use that case, as you've seen. They're all going to be going into the other trays and stuff. But a 66-piece router bit set that really is, really the bits all look pretty good and stuff. And it came with that little collet holder and the oil that's worth basically $35. So I paid $167 total for everything. So that meant that it came to just a little bit over $2 each for the router bits, which you just can't touch a bit for that, especially with all the ball bearings and everything else. And I've had really good luck with these MLCS bits in the past, so I decided to grab a set, and they're all coated, have to be cleaned up and stuff, but they're really all ground nice and look like they're pretty precision, and they'll be all cleaned up, moved over to trays eventually. Now that little bit holder is really going to be handy because I've got bits like this grooving one where you have to tighten a nut down to change a bearing or the groove width. And this thing really, it just goes in and it goes in one side there and it locks it in one direction so you can tighten the nut. And to loosen the nut, you just flip it over, and it's just basically a one-way needle bearing in there that locks it really tight. So I have to figure out where to mount that little lock on the table next. So it's been a while since I've done an update on this, and I thought I'd give you, a quick update. I've had some other projects going on that I no longer can make videos of, so this is where it stands now, and hopefully right after the holidays I'll be putting out the final video with the router lift included. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.